Welcome everyone to our session on how IMS Data Channel makes voice services a new experience. I'm your host, Sharon McTurnan, Head of Core Campaigns at Nokia. Today we will discuss the IMS Data Channel from a few angles. We'll look at the evolution of voice services and highlight some recent product enhancements. We'll reveal how innovations will improve the customer experience and ultimately create a competitive advantage for CSPs. We won't stop there. We'll also cover some strategies to integrate it into networks. I'd like to introduce you to our speakers today, Stelyana Baleva, Principal Analyst at Téral Research, and Tracy Coutre, Head of R&D IP Telephony Applications at Nokia. We have a lot to cover in a short time, so let's get started. Tracy, I'd like to start with you. Can you take us through some of the historical milestones of IMS?
Sure, Sharon. So IMS stands for IP Multimedia Subsystem. It's a 3G standard. It's mature. It's dated back to 2002, to the 3G wireless days. It provides a common framework so that we can offer multimedia communication services like voice, video, and messaging. The benefits and why the standard was created in the first place is that it really allows a carrier to evolve their voice and video services seamlessly. They've gone from 3G to 4G to 5G now. Being able to provide feature transparency, secure interfaces, authentication, interoperability. So all those wonderful things, quality of service that a carrier expects and relies on. It also provides, as part of the architecture, application servers. And in our Nokia portfolio, we've got our telephony application server, which has given the CSPs open APIs so they can define new kinds of services that they can offer to their customers. So, fundamentally, IMS gives them a really good base to build on to evolve their services. And, over the last 2 decades, it's now grown to 3 billion subscribers worldwide. What we're going to talk about today, I like to call revolutionizing voice services, because what we're going to be doing is adding now a data channel that will make the voice call much more interactive to the caller experience. It brings new kind of value-added services that the CSP can now offer to their consumer and their enterprise customers. And it's really an exciting evolution of IMS.
Great. Stelyana, can you tell us, how do you see IMS voice and multimedia services evolving related to customers and markets?
Sure, yes. As long as humans keep talking, voice services will never go away. I would say it's an essential part of how you communicate, right? Having voice over our phones. So as Tracy said, the evolution of the IMS and the voice service being to improve the quality of service for the customers, moving from 2G, 3G circuit switch networks over to voice over LTE networks, and providing customers some benefits of enhanced voice services or HD voice, and now with 5G even moving over to voice over radio. I think around the world, a lot of operators, we track how many VoLTE networks now exist, and that number grows constantly. We have around 300 VoLTE networks around the world. So most operators already offer enhanced services over IMS, but there are still operators who offer voice through 2G and 3G. And that means there is a lot of mobile subscribers that are going to be moved to IMS over the next several years. So it's a growing market. Operators are investing in the IMS technology. And I also want to mention that as voice has been substantial, essential service for all subscribers and consumers. At the same time, there are a lot of over-the-top applications that now offer voice, and operators have seen that kind of the revenues from the voice services have been trending down at the expense of data, right? The mobile data has been the main driver. So it is revolutionizing now the IMS with data channel. It's a great opportunity to bring more revenue for the voice services for the operators.
Great, great. Tracy, can you give us some insight into the recent innovation, the IMS Data Channel? What is it and how does it work?
Okay, so in a nutshell, so IMS Data Channel helps facilitate the exchange of real-time data during a voice or a video call. It allows users to share applications back and forth, any kind of data content, photos, applications, etc. And it's seamless during the call. So it's not like it can happen in real time while actually the call is going on. You probably didn't really talk about this, but one of the things that really differentiates the IMS data channel from, say, over-the-top provider applications out there is really about the ease of use. There's no kind of downloads that an end user has to do. There's no registration that they have to do with the app, no logging, etc. So the idea here is that from a use perspective, it's very seamless to the user experience. And that's really key in terms of making it more human-like, how we interact with one another every day. The IMS Data Channel enhances the experience by giving, standard HTML, JavaScript-based kind of applications, graphical interfaces. It allows you to share applications like augmented reality type of applications back and forth. So there's a lot of richness that can come into this communication that can either be from end user, a consumer to a consumer, or from an enterprise to a consumer. Just like thinking about like me as a consumer, right? If I'm on the phone talking to one of my family or my friends, it really does allow me in real time do some photo sharing with them, not have to go off onto a different app to forward it to them, but in real time be able to provide and interact with the other person in terms of whatever content I want to share. Also, gaming obviously is a big area of interest as we look at the consumer market. From a enterprise perspective, there's a lot of interest in this area because you think about business to consumers, there's so much information that they can provide in more of a visual form or application form than just like the kind of the traditional interactive voice dialing prompt type of interface that, maybe you and I are known for in terms of calling like a toll-free number. So it really does allow a business now to really enhance that interaction with their customer, be able to provide more, I'll say, information about their catalog, discounts, information about their product line, advertising. So there's a lot of like richness that can now go into that business to consumer type of interface. So, these are all just like enablers. And in terms of setting it up, in terms of the call, it's really simple because once the enablers are in place, the only thing that's really required is for the end user to accept it, to allow a data channel to be added to their voice call. So it's a really simple, executable type of service that a carrier can provide. These are just the starting points. We're obviously in a lot of discussion with carriers about what the different kind of end user applications could be. And if you look at different kinds of industry verticals, you can see like in healthcare and education, manufacturing, banking, and public safety. All these different verticals really do have unique applications that can be enhanced by a data channel. So there's lots of opportunity here. The carriers are very excited. One thing that I did want to also kind of bring out is there is something called rich communication services that has been offered in the past, which has given, I'll say, value-added messaging services and applications out there. What now we do with IMS Data Channel really steps it up in terms of really bringing a lot more value add to what the carrier can now provide to their customers. And again, it's about making it easy to deploy, easy to use, easy to incorporate data in that human experience that we have every day.
Great. A lot of good information there. Stelyana, I'd like to move over to you and talk a little bit about the IMS Data Channel from a landscape of a global reach. How do we see this as being a competitive differentiator for CSPs and enterprises?
Right. As I mentioned, the IMS service is already available around the whole world. As you're talking about more than 300 service providers using that. So now with the IMS Data Channel comes into the same landscape of the IMS voice service. And that means that it will be available to customers around the world. And there's a possibility for a very large adoption. And as Tracy said, the great thing for the data channel is that it comes directly um, to the familiar, already available voice service. Like there is no need for a separate special app. Like people can interact and use that content within the native call screen. And so that's a great way to see new things, experience new interaction within something that's already familiar and available on the calls around the world. A lot of customers. So I think Data Channel has a huge potential to become a differentiator for service providers and the services that they offer. And one thing I also see that this experience can also be a big differentiator for the 5G service for customers. Because honestly, I hear people saying, now we have the 5G networks. I don't really see or understand if there is a big difference between my LTE service and my 5G service now. But I think that if we have this interactive, very different experience on a familiar voice service, that can really be a game changer for the user perception of 5G. So that they see something amazing and interact with their voice calls in a very different and dynamic way. So yes, I think that it's can be a great differentiator, and I would say a mandatory service for operators to have on the offering.
Tracy, I'd like to hear your thoughts on how the IMS data channel can be a differentiating factor from a Nokia's perspective.
Well, Stelyana brought out, I think, a lot of really good points. I mean, the CSPs that we're talking to around the world are really looking at how can they increase their revenue? How can they bring more applications and value-added services to their business customers, to consumers, so they can grow their overall, benefit to those customers as well as to their shareholders. I think the 5G investments are a really good point because that's another really critical area that they're looking at. How do they monetize that? How can they bring much more revenue from the infrastructure that they put in place with the 5G? And obviously, data and high broadband bandwidth, et cetera, is really part of what we get from the value of 5G, and being able to integrate data applications with voice applications really leverages that. So I think that that's really what we see a lot coming from the CSPs. The data channel, again, how is it differentiating, right? So when we go back to, let's say over the top providers and all these different kinds of applications that we have on our phones today, what exactly does the data channel do that's different, that's making it a value that the carriers can offer that can't be offered by anyone else? And this really, again, goes back to the fact that it builds on top of the framework already in place with IMS, right? So it's already a secure, authenticated, interoperable with, different networks around the world, guarantee quality of service. I mean, these are really important factors to an end user, right? They want to know that as they're using an application, that it's secure and it's going to work correctly and have good quality. And so the fact that the data channel builds on top of this infrastructure, to me, is a really strong differentiator that the CSP is able to offer that, the over the top providers cannot. So, growing revenue stream, obviously that's at the bottom line of, the value here, bringing this service out to the customers. If they don't have IMS today, I'll just add that we have a wonderful voice core solution for IMS called CNCS. It's our IMS infrastructure on a cloud-native environment that is really exciting that we're deploying out with customers today. And if they don't have IMS, we're more than willing to work with them on that. But the bottom line here is really about making sure the applications itself are meeting what the customers want in terms of the consumer market and the enterprise market. And in that realm, we've also been working a lot on different kinds of use cases and demonstrations of what those use cases were. So that as the CSPs are building out, data channel on top of their IMS today, then we've got the applications opportunities for them to leverage it as they roll that out. Okay.
Stelyana, I'd like to hear from you about what do you see as needed to integrate these capabilities for the evolving 5G landscape and beyond?
Tracy discussed for a data channel to become a differentiator and achieve worldwide adoption and be seamlessly integrated with the IMS services available. So I kind of distinguish two prerequisites, if I can say that, two things that I think we need to happen. Service providers to embrace and see this as an opportunity to innovate, and so that they can create a strong business case for their enterprises in a way that companies can start designing those various cases and applications. So developers develop new ideas how to use that. And the second, for the enterprises, also to discover how easy it is to use and use of implementation. So having these two factors will enable to achieve the adoption and the best use of the innovation. And also with 5G, as we discussed, some of the use cases will benefit from the 5G low latency and high bandwidth capabilities. But I think it's also possible to start with IMS Data Channel, even implementing within 4G networks and have it available for the 5G future networks. So I think the data channel has a lot of opportunity to open doors for innovation and a way for service providers to monetize services. It's a great opportunity for them.
Excellent. Tracy, do you expect the telecom industry to embrace and innovate with this technology in order to meet the evolving customer needs? What's your take on that?
Absolutely. So this is kind of like, again, going back at the evolution of voice, right? This is a special opportunity for the CSPs to really provide unique new services to their customers that doesn't really require the customers to jump from application to application. At the end of the day, it's all about the customer experience and making, like I said before, that customer experience much more natural, like the human experience, simple, fun, interactive, how we like to interact on a day in, day out basis. So, if we look at where we are you look at like the telecom industry and adoption and moving towards in this direction, we're in the early adopter stage, right? So the standards, just coming out, development we have available in our IMS portfolio, our IMS structure for supporting the data channel. We're in proof of concept trailing right now with AT&T and Samsung, looking at the different use cases, sharing those with customers. And there's a lot of excitement, I have to tell you. Looking at the use cases, looking at the customer experience, seeing how it can really be a change, a much better interactive change to the consumer or the end user, is really getting a lot of excitement. And so I believe that as the customers start seeing it and experience it, the service will definitely fly. And there'll be very strong momentum adopting it across the industry. And we really will see a revolution in what we kind of call voice services today. I think the first people, the first carriers, whatever, that go out there and take that leap and get the deployment, and the first vendors, the terminal vendors, the device vendors are out there, they're going to have a competitive advantage in terms of the consumer market and the enterprise market. So, it's going to be who gets out there first, I think, is going to really seize a lot of the market share.
Excellent. Well, we certainly look forward to seeing all of this come about. And I want to thank you ladies for your time today. We certainly have come a long way in the recent times. And I'd like to thank our audience for joining today. We look forward to seeing you on next time. Thanks again for joining us.